Hi, this is Jeffrey Scott. Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO podcast. The guest today is Chris O'Brien. Chris is a very interesting person. I kept calling him crazy on our show, and he's a little bit crazy. He's like the visionary who he's got a great company, Limbwalkers, limbwalkertree.com limbwalkertree.com. Very unique personality. You're going to learn a unique definition of leadership and of the word leader. Really, really clever. I really like it. You're going to learn a lot about his company. It's a 20-year-old business, $5 million in revenue, 45 employees, one location in Louisville. Mostly tree service, 60%, but he does lawn services, plant healthcare, and mosquito. And like I said, he's a 50-50 partner with a gentleman named Corey. You will learn about his unique bonus program. You learn about his unique employee structure. This is very unique. He's got his crews basically set up as pods, and they have their own equipment, etc. They have their own brand. They have their own logo. Just extreme ownership by the crew, or my word, the pod, within his company. It's really unique. And for those of you that don't know, I also put these podcasts as a video on YouTube, and you may want to go check it out because he shows some of these logos from his, if you're not actually already watching on YouTube, he shows some of his logos of his different crews, different pods. He teaches you the trust equation, how to manage expectations with the trust equation. Very simple, very, very clever. You'll learn about how he did a total reset with his management team in 2018. He'll tell you about a COVID reset he did in 2020 and how he tries to really ground his employees in a way to deal with the stress that we all feel today. And it's his way of helping his team move forward. You're going to love this a lot. We talk a bit about peer groups in the end here. And of course, I run the Leader's Edge, which is a dominant landscape peer group for our industry. If you ever want to learn more, go to my website at jeffreyscott.biz. We have a large community, I think the largest in the industry, and it's growing. We would love for you to check it out. It's a great way to ground yourself. And you'll hear Chris talk about how he grounds himself with his peers and different people to support himself. I really like this guy. A crazy individual. I hope you enjoy it. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jeffrey. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. We have not met before, so this is it's like a blind first date.
Yeah, great to meet you.
And so tell the audience about you and your current business.
My name's Chris O'Brien. I started a company called Limbwalker with my friend Corey Petrie about 20 years ago. After leaving graduate school, I was a climber, and we started off with a small chip truck and chipper, an old-fashioned way. We grew that into, we used to climb and we did sales, and it kept growing. We added a lawn care component onto that, a plant healthcare component, and more recently, within the last 5 years, mosquito control component. So now we call ourselves Louisville's urban forest experts because we manage basically the outdoor of the yard. Currently, we're not doing any landscape services, but everything else we offer really good service to. So
yeah. So are both of you guys active? Is he active in the business too?
He's less active than me. I'm the president. He does training. He trains new employees onto processes and protocols and helps onboard them. But I do the day-to-day management. I have a management team we call the Wolf Pack. So it has my production manager, my sales manager, and my controller and my fleet manager. And so we meet a couple times a week. So I manage that team.
Gotcha. And so he's part-time in the business?
Yeah, he's part-time. He's got a couple kids now. my daughter, she's older, so she's out of the house, and his kids are still in the home. So he spends a lot of time at home now. He's sort of, he's kind of just, yeah, I'd say it's part-time. Yeah.
Okay. So you have a crazy internal branding approach to your company. Can you explain that?
Yeah, for sure. So we do something really unique. Everyone in my company is on a team, and the team has a color associated with it, but it also has a logo. So for example, like the Green Hydras are our crane team, and they have a crane. They have 3 people and a chip truck and chipper. Yeah. We also have the Blue Wizards. That's our climbing team. They have a wood truck that has a mini skid and a wood truck, a chip truck and chipper, and 3 workers. We have a sales team called the Eastern Hemlocks, and those are our consulting arborists that go out and look at tree jobs. So that system, I'd wanted to do it for a long time. I've been in the tree business for quite a long number of years and know it really well. And we used to do, I always called it I called it the cowboy method of managing production and tree work, which was basically your salespeople go out and they sell tree work. They sell pruning, removals, shrub shearing. And then when it comes to the production manager, all these work orders come into the production manager, and the production manager is tasked with putting the right employees on the right jobs every day. So the production manager would say, today, Bill, you go with this team over here. Y'all are going to do this removal. And then tomorrow, Bill's going to be on a different crew with a different set of equipment. And we did that for a number of years. And what we found from that system were a couple things. One, it was really difficult to predict price of a crew or to predict income of a crew because they constantly had changing workers in skill sets. So we also, and then the other thing was they damaged vehicles and equipment, and you wouldn't know who's responsible for it because no one person was responsible for that vehicle. So about 5 years ago, I decided to come in, and I'd had the idea for a while, but I came in and standardized everything. I first started with the crews, and now we have a crew leader. A crew leader is something that you train for. You can be trained to be a crew leader. It has a completely different set of skills than an assistant crew leader or a climber for us has. So it used to be the best climber was the crew leader. Now the best leader is the crew leader.
Nice.
The second person in charge is usually a climber. They may or may not want to be a crew leader in the future. And then the third person is on the ground, and they may or may not be trying to, wanting to be an assistant crew leader. We have different skill sets for all 3 of those positions on a crew. We can now, with fixed crews, we can fix the price of that crew. We can say, I don't know if it's okay if I talk about prices. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. So if we say a crane crew is $500 an hour, I can now tie the crew leader's pay as a percentage of that price. And then as we raise the price of the crew due to inflation, we can give the crew leader a raise in inflation raise. So it's made managing much easier. Now, and then selling to our salespeople now, where they would just sell, they were sort of like in this unorganized ether where they were sort of selling tree work, hodgepodge. Now they actually basically sell time for the crew. They can look at all of the services a client needs and estimate the amount of time for a specific crew. They know the hourly price of the crew, and they just bid to that price. And now the production manager. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It's a fixed price bid.
Yeah. We do that. Now we do variable ones. Anything over a day, by definition, to us is a variable bid, because we've noticed that the risk of missing goes way up the longer the bid is. So we allow our consulting arborists to bid a day or less, but after a day, it's variable. It's like more like a time and materials. And we have we do 4 10-hour days. So we have out of that 10-hour day, we want 9 hours paid. So we'll do so for our production manager, just to keep her sane, we try to sell in 3, 6, or 9-hour blocks. So
gotcha.
Yeah. So we try to make things very simple.
Could you show one of those brand logos up on the screen?
Oh yeah.
It's a podcast, but it's also in YouTube.
Yeah. So there's the Blue Wizards. You notice we have our little logo there, right there. It's really sweet.
Oh, is that your logo inside the logo?
Isn't that cute? Yeah. Okay. So the Blue Wizards, they're a climbing crew. Now our crew actually requested. Now, when I first started doing this, I'll tell you, being a leader can be really lonely in the beginning. And when you come up with an idea, a lot of times you won't get buy-in from. You won't get buy-in from anyone. If you're lucky, you'll get one person that buys in it with you. And I was really lucky. I had one person on my cruise buy in it with me, and he was a good friend. And he, when I came up with the idea, everyone was sort of like, all the tree guys were like, oh, I don't know if I like this idea. It's kind of dumb. What are we going to do with it? But what I did, I went to, and I'm not a designer, but there's a company on the web that you can go to, and they'll design logos for you for very not expensive. So I did that. I hired them to make the logos for me. And as soon as the team saw the logos and they could buy into the logos, then they really loved it. And our Blue Wizards, it's really funny. I actually know a wizard in Louisville. He's a wizard. He's and he has a blue robe. So we actually had him come and bless the crew one day. So they loved it. It was wonderful. But
so how else does this crew branding manifest?
Let's see. We do some other things that we can do with it. We can do competitions, really friendly competitions. We can do like competitions. So my consulting arborists, we have 4 consulting arborists that go and look at tree work and plant healthcare. And we have 2 teams, the Eastern Hemlocks and the Honey Badgers. So we'll do
Can I see one of those logos again?
Yeah, for sure.
Hold it up to the screen. Again, if you're podcasting, you got to go to YouTube to see this. Okay, there's the Honey Badgers. Yeah.
Here are the Eastern Hemlocks.
The Eastern Hemlocks. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to be a honey badger.
Honey badger. Well, that's great. Well, you can. That's a great team. They always win. They win a lot of the tree work competition. They sell most of the tree work, but the Eastern Hemlocks consistently sell more plant healthcare. We have little competitions. When you standardize things, what I found is, and I can do really fun things. I can actually create records. I can say who for this week. So one of the other things we do is we actually standardize our year. So right now we're in Q1, week 12. We're almost at the end of the quarter. Next week is the end of the quarter. So we number our weeks, and I can actually look back in history and tell you who has the record tree sales for that week and what year they did it in. So when we do that, then we can recognize teams when they break production records or when they break weekly sales records, or even like a world record for us would be like the most tree production any team has ever produced ever. And we did that last week. The Green Hydras, boom, they beat the record for any team. It was, they beat, I think it was over $50,000 they did as a team, just as 3-person team in 1 week. It was unbelievable. We're very proud of them. So we'll recognize them publicly.
You're from Louisville. Do they use a lot of baseball metaphors?
Oh, no, that's really funny. The Louisville Slugger. Yeah. That's downtown. They have the biggest bat in the world. And they use ash for baseball bats and hard maple. We don't have a lot of baseball fans at the at the company, but I mean, I like baseball. Okay. Are you a baseball fan?
I grew up that way for sure. But I was
Oh,
just
fun.
curious.
No, we as we build more crews, we allow them if they want to choose their own team name and color. Like we usually try to keep the color the same because all of our tools on that crew are painted that color. So
Yeah.
there's a pragmatic aspect to the colors.
I really
Um,
love that. So does this branding become client facing? Do the clients
oh,
see?
100%. Yeah, the clients really love it. So we there's a style called Funko Pop. You've probably seen it. The style is a Japanese style where the head of the design is like a bigger head and it's kind of a bobbly head looking thing. And it's really cute, big eyes. So we've actually got Funko Pop versions of the green hydras. And I'll see if I have one up here. Um, I might have to pull it up later, but anyway, we will send that to the clients, like as a magnet. So we're like, hey, the green hydras did your tree work today, and so
Yeah.
they'll know the team, and they'll actually reference the team when we request our Google 5 stars. So
So
it's they get behind
does
it.
that confuse your branding word of mouth? Like how does that
Mm-mm.
play?
No, no. Our story is that we're the urban forest experts, and we're a team of forest. Like it's almost like a team of little forest creatures that go and take care of the urban forest. They're all under the brand of Limbwalker, but there's all different types of forest creatures. So the overall brand, the sun, like overarching everything is Limbwalker, but Limbwalker is like a bunch of cute little animals running around, like making their grass green, helping their trees, feeding their trees, taking care of the urban forest. It's really cute, actually. They love it.
I think of Luke Skywalker when I hear your name.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So Corey, my business partner, he came up with the name, and it was definitely attached to Luke Skywalker and Limbwalker. So
So it's already a fun name, basically.
it was a fun name. People love it. They understand it. It's a little tough when we tell people over the phone. They sometimes it's tough to explain over the phone. They hear Lynn Walker. They hear that name a lot, so we have to
Yeah.
explain it. But once they get it, then they're like, oh, okay. And then all the feelings that come along with the hero motif of Skywalker and Limbwalker, we really grab onto that. We do a lot of that story branding with the hero story with our clients. Where
Yeah.
so we do story branding. So having that Limbwalker as a motif really is really helpful to us. People love
You
it.
know, I used to network with a guy named John Barb, and it was Jon. So whenever he introduced himself, he was like John without an H, Barb like barbed wire.
Oh, sweet. Right. So
And so you
I
just
love it.
remember his name. So
You
maybe
remember it, right? Yeah, we always say
Limbwalker.
Limbwalker like Luke Skywalker. Yep. And then all those feelings that you associate with Luke Skywalker come into Limbwalker for sure. And they remember it. We love it.
Let's go backwards a bit. How
Okay.
you and your partner met. You were like a prized climber, international climber. How did that
Oh
start?
man, I've got a great story for you. Yeah. So when I was a young man, I grew up without a family. I grew up in foster care and in group homes. So when I was on my own, and I was on my own, completely on my own, and I had
Yeah.
moved to Idaho to work for the Forest Service, and I had met my wife, and then moved back to Louisville, and we had a baby, my daughter Nina. Um,
Mm.
and I had gotten a job doing tree work because it made money, and I could make money doing it. And I was a climber, and I was good at it. That was the first thing. I'm a small person. I'm about 5'6", 130 pounds, and athletic, but I could never play football or basketball. I was just too small for it.
Yeah.
And but I took to climbing really quickly. I knew how to do it. I wasn't scared of it. I kind of just got it. My body got it.
Yeah.
And a guy that I worked with told me, he said, hey, there's a state tree climbing championship happening next week. You should enter. And I said, oh, no, I'll never win. And he said, the winner gets to go to Montreal and compete at the international climbing championship. And my wife was really at the time enamored by French and Canadian culture. And when I told her that, she was so excited. She said, "Oh, you can win." And I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have told you. There's no way I can win this thing. I've never done it. I don't know." So she said, "Well, you have to enter." So we went up to this farm where the competition was being held. And I had my daughter. She was about 6 months old at the time. And we're all there. And the first event, and the climbers that are listening to this will understand, and the Belade Speed Climb event was my first event. And I had a helmet and it did not have a chin strap. And no one had, I didn't have anyone helping me that day. And no one had told me that if something falls off of your body during the competition, you're disqualified from that event. So in the first event that I entered, within the first 3 seconds, my helmet fell off. I was a foot off the ground, but I was immediately disqualified. Oh, my heart sank. My heart sank. And I was like, oh no, I came here thinking I could win this, and I get disqualified from the first event. But then I said, you know what? I guess, I don't have anything to be nervous about. I might as well just go. And so I competed in the next 4 events, and I snuck in. I actually made it to the Masters climb. I got to the Masters climb. I was the third and last person to compete in the Masters climb. And I won that competition. And I got to go to Montreal, and it changed my life. I got to meet climbers from all around the world. We're stuck here in Kentucky, and I love Kentucky, but if you don't meet anyone from around, the equipment we were using was kind of rough. The saddles we were using were sort of antiquated. And when I saw what the international community was using, it just blew me away. And also that I was part of that. I think that I was a member of that club now, and that gave me a lot of confidence. And I didn't do so well in the international competition as I did in the Kentucky competition. But for the next 5 years, I won the next 5 Kentucky competitions. And then I retired from climbing, and then went to grad school. I did my graduate work. I wrote a paper called The Economic Analysis of American Arboriculture. So I defined what the receipts were. So if you were going to produce a new chipper, or you were going to purchase another company, you would reference my paper when I was doing my master's, and look at gross receipts and how the industry is structured and how the contracting methods are done and things like that. But yeah, that first competition led to everything else. It led to me going to graduate work. It led me to starting the company with my buddy. It was wonderful. I'm just so thankful for it. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. You met your partner at this tournament.
My business partner, we have been best friends since we were 15. We sat at the same lunch table in high school, and I got him into tree work. And when I went away to graduate school, he continued doing tree work. But the company we worked for, he could no longer work for the owner of that company. They just didn't get along very well. And so when I graduated with graduate work, he asked me if I wanted to start a company with him. And I said, yeah, sure, let's go. And we're going to go in 50-50. And I was very gung-ho. I needed to survive. I needed to thrive. I needed to make money. And so I was very motivated when we first started. And, the story that a lot of, I think, tree company owners have, for the first 5 to 10 years, we just worked 80-hour weeks, 80 to 100-hour weeks. We climbed everything and came down and sold work in the afternoons and evenings, and then hired friends to do bookkeeping, things like that. And then we just kept growing and growing and growing, and developed a really good name in our city. We have a lot of support here in our city. I'd say we're a small to medium-sized market in Louisville. I think we have one national player, maybe, in Louisville right now in tree work, maybe one national player in lawn care. But it's mostly local companies. here in Louisville that we compete against. So, yeah, so that's how we got started, how I met my partner, and we've been great partners. We get along really well. We're sort of yin and yang. He's very grounded. I come up with new ideas all the time. So we work really well.
You're the crazy one, huh?
Yeah, I'm the crazy one for sure. 100%.
Hey, tell us about this trust equation. I really like what you do there.
Man, so the trust equation is something that I taught my tree crews, and mostly we have young men. We have had a few young women, but for the most part, it's young men. And a few years ago, I looked at our Google reviews, and I noticed that we had I think 24 reviews with a 4.4 rating, something pretty low. And that really did not sit well with me, because I know that we strive to be the best in our town. But if you just moved here from Chicago and you were looking at a tree care company, we would not look the way that I felt we needed to look. Yep. And so we had to increase our Google reviews. And when I went to my workers and I talked to them and tried to say, like, hey, can you all ask for Google reviews? They wouldn't do it. I tried to pay them. I said, I'll give you $30 for every Google 5-star review you get. And we still were not getting any Google reviews. And finally, I had one of my crew leaders. I was exasperated. And I went to him. I said, why aren't you asking for Google reviews? And he said, because I'm afraid that if I ask them how we did, they're going to say we didn't do a good job. I said, oh, that's it right there. It's the fear of failure, which I have since learned that is a huge fear in a lot of young people, is the fear of failure. And so instead, they're so afraid of it that they won't even broach the subject. So they'd rather just have this narrative in their mind that they did a good job, and hope no one says anything. So what I did, I came up with the trust equation, and the trust equation is super simple. You ask for expectations before you begin. You confirm those expectations verbally with the person that you just asked them, and then you meet those expectations. So what Mrs. Smith might say is, the tree limbs are too close to my house. And I would repeat back to her, great. What I hear you saying, Mrs. Smith, is that you'd like to raise the limbs off your house about, does 10 feet sound like that would work for you? And she would say, great. And then I would say, Miss Smith, would you mind if I check back in with you when we're complete, just to make sure you're happy?
Yeah.
And she's going to say, yeah, sure. And so we do the work and we come back, and guess what? Now I've asked Ms. Smith, hey, did we meet your expectations? Did we do a good job? Of course she's going to say yes. Now I've removed all risk of her saying no. And that's when we go and we say, hey, would you do me a favor? Would you give us a Google 5-star review? It really helps us out a lot. And it's a way of you tipping us, and you don't have to pay us. The company pays us to get that. And so when we did that, it's wonderful. I hear a lot of companies, they always say, like, they want to send the client like an email to make sure they did a good job before they post it publicly. And I'm like, that just is too much work for me. Just ask for the expectations, confirm it with them, and then meet them. It's super easy. So ask, confirm, meet is the trust equation.
Let's segue to this bonus program that you just, implied there. Tell us about your bonus program.
So the bonus program has 4 components. It has a production component. It has a Google 5-star component. It has a yard sign component. And then it has a safety component. And the safety component we call the treasure chest. So the bonus, the production bonus, is simply 1.5% of what we produce in a quarter, if they meet their production quota, if the crew. So if the green hydras meet their production quota, then their production that production total, it's not quite 1.5, it's 1.3%, will go into a bonus pool. The Google 5-star is simply $30 for every Google 5-star that the green hydras bring into the company.
Yep.
Yard signs, we have yard signs, like it says, I think, another happy tree or another happy client by Limbwalker. And if the crew leader can convince the client to let us put that yard sign in their yard for 30 days, well, that's another $20 to the crew. So, and then the final one, the safety component, at the beginning of every quarter, we put $500 per production worker into their pool. So for the green hydras, they have 3 workers, that's $1,500. And that, all 4 of those bonuses add up each week. Now, the treasure chest or the safety feature is sort of I guess you'd call it a hedge against minor infractions. So for example, if our GPS unit says that the crane truck was going more than 10 miles over the speed limit, it kicks off a notification. And so for every notification, we take $20 out of the treasure chest. If a crew has a failure to prep and doesn't dump their chip trucks one afternoon, then $50 comes out of their treasure chest. So if they break a landscape light and it costs $100, that comes out of the treasure chest. And so at the end of the quarter, we add up their production bonus, their Google 5-stars, their yard signs, and what's remaining in their treasure chest. And then we split that up according to their position. So like the crew leader is going to get half of that total. The second command is going to get 30%, and the third in command is going to get 20%. And it's usually really nice. The crew leader is going to come away with about $2,000. The second in command is going to come away with, $1,100, $1,200. And the third in command is going to get, $700, something like that, usually. And so that's quarterly. Those are so nice bonuses, and they're quarterly. So the crew leader is going to make another $8,000 to $10,000 a year just in bonuses. So they love it. They absolutely love it. So, and we track it. I think the main thing we found is you've got to be transparent. You've got to report it. So there's an administrative cost to that. But we have a TV that rotates and that I update weekly. So it tells them, they know what they've got in their bonus pool. They know what's taken out of it. We have a really fun item. If you're tardy, you can choose. You can either have $50 taken out of your treasure chest, or you can run a lap Thursday mornings, which is our last day of the week. So everyone always chooses to run laps. So we make it kind of fun. We make it kind of like, well, we don't want you to be tardy, but we're not going to, everyone's oversleeps occasionally. But you still kind of have to pay the piper a little bit. So we just take laps, and I read out whoever was tardy that week, and we go run laps. And I always run with them. So we make it kind of fun.
That's funny. That would have to be in their job description. Must be able to run laps.
Oh yeah.
Fun time.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're doing tree work, you can't run a lap. You definitely need to be able to run a lap for sure. Yeah.
That's funny. Hey, you mentioned to me that you did a management reset just a couple of years ago. And what brought that on, and what did you do?
Man, I was just seeing so many things broken. I had taken I was spending a lot of time at home. I would come in, once a week to consult with my production manager. And I could just tell that he was overwhelmed, that he did not have the respect of the crews. And we were getting a lot of breakages. It just seemed chaotic to me. And so when I came in, and I had asked him, I had been working on this crew structure for a while. I had already seen I already knew that it would be a win because the sales could sell better if they sold to the crews. We could predict pricing better if we sold to the crews. I already knew, and I have an economics background, so I already knew, for example, the law of the commons. That's one of the things you learn. If it's everyone's, it's no one's. If it's everyone's tragedy. Yeah, it's a tragedy of the commons. Yeah. So that's what was happening with our chip trucks and our mini skids and our stump grinders. It was just no one was accountable. So I came in and I knew that, once his trust had been broken with the crews, that he wouldn't get that back. So I gave him a good severance package. I really liked him, but I said, it's time. We just need to make a change. And so I came in and I just did some heavy lifting. I'd come in at 3 a.m, get good 3 hours of work in before the crews came in. When they came in, I would do my best to keep everything together. It was trepidatious. I mean, we were having flat tires every day. It was hectic there for a little bit, and the stress levels were out of the roof. But over time, we were able to come back, and we had good boundaries. I always use mantras. Every year, I come up with a different mantra. And that year, it was good boundaries make good relationships. So we went in and said, these are the boundaries of your position. Because if you look at a group of people, you're always going to have the helpers, and the helpers have a codependence. They love to help people, and they'll help you do your work. If you're a taker, they'll help you do your work, even though it costs them time and money. They'll still help because they have a codependence with it. So I came in and I said, this is your job, and you're not supposed to do their job. I do not want you doing their work. And so we came in, we set up good boundaries, redefined all of the positions, retrained everyone. It was quite a bit of heavy lifting. But
so you let one manager go or a couple?
I let one manager go the first, and then I think 6 months later, I let the sales manager go. She was still doing the old way, and she wasn't changing. So we had to come in and get a restart on that too. And then we had a lot of people leave. And to be fair, that wasn't the company they hired on with. We were becoming a new company with different expectations and different boundaries. So I understood. I said, you're a cowboy and you don't want to be accountable and you just want to do what you want to do. There's lots of other free care companies that they love that. So go work for them. No hard feelings. I don't mind.
Yeah, that's a really important point. When I am consulting with a company and when we decide that a bigger culture change needs to happen, now I tell the owner, but I wouldn't necessarily tell them up front originally. I'm like, you're going to lose some people. Mm-hmm. And I consulted years ago with Drost, where I held my summer growth summit last year. And Dale Dreyer from Drost pulled me aside and he said, after we made the big changes, it was some high percentage, 25, 30% of their workforce turned over. Yeah. And, they made more money the next year immediately, and the whole culture snowballed up, did a good snowball.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. I wish I had known you back then. You would have warned me. I didn't know. Now I know. But I also understand, and I don't have any animosity towards those employees who left, because expectations. We're expectation creatures. We want to know what to expect, and in that change, I didn't quite know what to tell them to expect, except that it was going to be better when it was done. I said, you just have to trust me. I don't know exactly what that means. I know that we will get to a stable place. But in the meantime, I'm going to need to change some expectations and switch some boundaries up. And if you're with me, you're with me. If you're not, I understand. Yeah. And have a great life.
It's interesting. Good employees will leave bad cultures, and bad employees will be squeezed out of good cultures.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's exactly it. Because as soon as we started, I found that chaos was a great hiding place for a lot of people. They love it. Yeah. Love it. But as soon as you start tracking things a little bit better, you start introducing some real accountability. They don't like it. And they see the writing on the wall. They're like, oh, you mean that I have to pay for the thing that I broke out of my bonus? I was like, yeah, that's what a bonus is. It's something that you get extra when you don't break the stuff. Yeah. But it's not really that difficult. You just have to not break things. Take the time before you do it, and take some time. We'll pay you to do that. We'll pay you to be a little more careful. Yeah.
That's so funny because that's exactly what I tell, when a contractor reaches out to me for help. That's exactly what I tell them. You've got employees hiding in the chaos, in the dust, it's like, who's the guy from Snoopy, the guy with the dirt?
Pigpen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that dirt around Pigpen. The employees hide in that chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of that, it just is. Yeah. I do, I'm a yoga teacher and I teach like breath work too. And I would call it, like, a term I would use is congestion. The company has congestion, and it just needs that energetic pathways cleared out. So then the best thing for that is sunlight, light, like having some visibility on those things, having some accountability, tracking things, being able to track things, knowing what's worth to track. So we do much more administerial duties than we did 5 years ago.
Sure.
For sure. But we have fewer. Oh my God, we have fewer injuries. We have fewer. The chaos is way down. Like, we don't have any chaos anymore. Now it's so quiet. The little things that would have slipped under, just breezed right past me. Now I pick up on those. We can work on those things. Now we can work on the little things, the little tweaks, the little honing.
It's interesting you say that. When I was running my family's business there, I was running the service center. And when I first got there in the spring, it would be loud, busy, like Grand Central Station. And 3, 4, 5 years later, when you would go there in the spring, and this is a service center that managed pool service, and landscape maintenance and irrigation. And 4 or 5 years later, you go there in the spring and it's quiet. And you're like, are we going out of business this year? Did the phone stop ringing? Well, we had put all the systems in place. We got proactive. We were calling clients. They weren't calling us.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting. It reminds me of a story. I've probably told this before on the podcast, but my grandfather, who started my family in the pool business, he had 2 crews. One crew leader would kind of sit there on a shovel looking lazy, and the other crew leader was always busy. And he always made more money with the guy sitting on his shovel.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was planning ahead. He was thinking what they had to get done. And so busy, I mean, we all know busy doesn't mean profitable, but it's not, things aren't always as they seem.
Oh, 100%. I always when I look at, in the background, you can see like Michael Jordan. And I always remember, like, if you're really good at something, you have to look cool doing it. You can't look like it's out of control. You're already forward thinking. You've already thought through, you've already done the mental work of thinking, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? So when it does happen, you've actually already lived it in your mind. So it's not a surprise. You already know how to do it. So I would definitely agree with your grandpa on that one. Yeah, the guy on the shovel, like, looking like easy. It looks like it's easier for him. I'm
imagining you learn that climbing trees, because I used to rock climb, and you would sit there looking up the mountain. You'd have to kind of think your whole climb in your head.
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah. You're incentivized to work less hard. I think that for sure. Climbing's hard. It's difficult. It's physically exhausting. And I don't care what kind of athlete you are, you will find a tree that just exhausts you. So I was always trying to conserve my energy. I was always trying to conserve my energy. I still try to conserve my energy. I want to live for a long time. I want to have energy to spend on other things. I want to have energy to think about new things and new ideas, and to do art and to hang out with my friends. And I didn't want to be tied to a business that was just all consuming me and all of my energy. But yeah, so I found a way to do it, and found a way that inspires me too. I mean, these team names, it's really fun for me. I love this. It's really fun, and we use it as a way to I don't know, it almost creates new ideas, because once you have everyone on a team, then you can play different things. So we're actually thinking of a Limbwalker Olympics. We're going to try to put together like just have fun team games that aren't too competitive, but they're competitive enough to kind of get some bragging rights. And yeah.
I like that idea of the world record.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun. And then, it's basically just recognition. I was really frustrated when I won my tree climbing competition. My boss did not know that I was such a good climber. He had no way to even measure it. Yeah. And I'm a small guy, so I had been looked over, like physically and in lots of ways, my whole life. So here I was I was the best climber, and I wasn't recognized. There was no way for him to recognize it. And so one of my biggest achievements, I think, here at Limbwalker is I know who my best workers are. I know who my best leaders are. I recognize them. I pay them. It's in alignment with that. And that's what I tell them. I said, that we're in a business that produces money, and the people that are most valuable get paid the most. That's how it works. And that's in alignment.
One last question here. We're going to come to the end, but you said that you made some changes. You did also a COVID reset and made changes in how you run your leadership team. What was that?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Well, when COVID hit, everyone was afraid. I think we all remember that. And not necessarily, even the people that weren't afraid of COVID were maybe afraid of the changes that were going on in the world because of COVID. I mean, it was scary. We didn't know what was coming down. And we were dealing with a lot of fears. Some people were very afraid of catching COVID, and some people weren't so afraid. And we do an opt-in. I manage with agreements. So I asked everyone who agreed to work. And if they didn't agree to work, they could stay home, and we'd call them when the coast was clear. And so luckily we had about 90% buy-in on that. I said, great, here's our new team. And we started doing a morning meeting called the leadership meeting, where we all sit around in a circle. That's really important to me. So we have a few rules. All the leaders, and by the way, leaders are people in the company that deal face-to-face with our clients. So that would be our sales personnel, our crew leaders. And we sit in a circle. You have to arrive on time. And the leadership meeting starts, we have a gong. We ring a gong. And for 2 minutes, we call it grounding in. In yoga, I would call it meditation. I don't, because we have lots of different people of different denominations. So we just call it grounding in here. And the rules are, you can't speak, you can't be on your cell phone, and you just have to sit for 2 minutes. After that, we ring the gong again. And then we go around, whoever's leading the leadership meeting, we rotate whoever's leading, asks for any gratitudes. Does anyone have any gratitudes this morning? Anything they're really thankful for? That one took a little while. People didn't really know how to take that at first. They, for a good 3 months, I was the only one. I'd say, I'm really happy we have great weather today. Or I'm really happy, I went to the doctor and it came back with a clean bill of health. I'm really happy my daughter just got an A in her test. Things like that. Just whatever it is, just something to lift your spirit, just something. And people started doing it. Now we do it all the time. When we do the gratitudes, we always get 4 or 5 people say something. And then we just literally simply go around the room and we just tell all the other leaders what we're doing that day. If you're a crew leader of a tree crew, you actually mention the name of the client, because we say that the client is there in spirit, if not physically. It also gives the salespeople a good sort of reminder. Oh, you're going to Miss Ballard's place today. Oh, great. Hey, by the way, her and her neighbor are not getting along. Could you make sure you don't get on her neighbor's property? Just those little sort of cues. So we'll have a little discussion in the morning about that, and then we leave the leadership meeting. Ends with just a request. Does anyone else have anything to add to the leadership meeting? Any questions, comments, or do they have anything to add they want to let the other leaders know? And if not, we start our day with that. It's just super simple. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes every morning. Super simple. And people love it. Yeah.
So it's not a training moment. It's a grounding moment. You want to, basically the whole thing was about grounding people.
It's a grounding. Yeah, it's grounding because in COVID, everyone was like afraid and their anxiety is up. Even if they're a very calm, grounded person, their anxiety during COVID was raised. And in some people, when you raise that anxiety, it stresses like a cup of water. At some point, it spills over. So we were getting people near their spillover point every morning because they're so anxious and stressed. And so that grounding in allows all that energy to just take deeper breaths in your belly. And I'd also teach them things like how to calm their nervous system with just belly breathing. And, so I kind of brought together my yoga information and knowledge with my managerial and tree knowledge. And, hopefully I have some people that bought in more than others. And some people, these are old tree guys. So they had never been to a breathing class before, but they've experienced it. If they don't buy in cognitively, they at least experience the difference, which is nice too.
Oh yeah. I think that that gratitude portion you do, I think is so important. There's almost this culture of being a victim that's perpetrated or, it's everywhere really. And also a lot of people can be negative and hard on themselves. My wife and I, end of the day, we don't do it as much now because we kind of live it, but early on, very purposefully, 3 things we're positive about. At the end of the day, can't say anything negative. Even in the mundane, find something positive. And now we just live it.
Yes.
And so we still do it. It's sort of, occasionally, but inconsistently. But I think that's a good practice to teach.
Yeah. I think that is these are old lessons too, whatever culture, you ascribe to. If you look back far enough, these teachings are old teachings. Where you put your mind, that's where you are. And if you are complaining or a victim, you will be a complaining victim. It's like a swamp. And so I just know, like, being grateful, nothing's expected. I'm grateful for everything. And like I said, my own personal story, I was on my own. So I could have chosen victimhood. And I looked at that and I said, oh my goodness, that is the worst scenario I could ever pick for myself. And so I went the other way. I picked being grateful for everything I have. And that has been fruitful both in my personal relationships, in my bank account. It's been fruitful in everything. So nice. I teach other people how to do that. Yeah, for sure.
Chris, I really, really appreciate you and you coming on this podcast, not even knowing me, really. Any final words you want to leave for the people listening? Maybe someone who's not yet where you are. Maybe they're starting out. I mean, all kinds of people listen to this podcast, but final words.
Yeah, I think just my advice to someone starting out is to pace yourself. Number one, don't pace yourself day to day, and always surround yourself with at least, the 5 people that you surround yourself with are a conglomeration of who you become. So make sure that if you're going to be a successful business owner or a successful climber, whatever you're going to do, make sure that one of your top 5 friends has those skills. And so that's going to rub off on you a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people would take that hardcore and say, get rid of your negative friends and take on positive friends. And I'm going to put that aside for a second. I think there is truth in that. But, I run peer groups in the landscape industry. And that's really a way to do that, because in the peer groups, we're all very positive. If someone's negative, they don't last in our groups. And so they say you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. Sometimes you have old friends that you may or may not want to get rid of, but you need business people that are positive around you.
You definitely need that. And, you can choose where you put your energy. So I don't get rid of anyone, but I just don't put as much energy towards them. I put my energy in towards the people that reflect light in my life. And whatever that means, it's not just money. I have people who are super kind, and I want to be around them because I admire that in them. I want to be like that. So I just put energy where you put your energy. I think doesn't mean you have to get rid of anyone. They'll kind of fall up on their own. because especially if they're sucking energy from you and you don't give them any more energy, they just sort of fall away. Or you just don't, yeah, it just sort of works itself out.
Chris, this has been awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much. This has been an honor for me, and I really appreciate it. Love talking with you.